All right. Thank you again for joining me yet another day live on Facebook. Today we're going to be talking about the basics of blues soloing. I'm going to give you some different tips to think about a little bit. So if you were with me yesterday, we talked about the basics of blues rhythm. We learned about the difference between a shuffle or swing and a straight rhythm. We learned how we can take our regular chords and turn them into dominant seventh chords by adding one note into the chord. The day before, we talked about organic strumming versus constructed strumming and learning all the elements that go into organic strumming with dynamics and things like that. We also talked about some tips on being able to optimize your chords and learning your chords, your chord changes, all that sort of thing. And we're doing all of this to celebrate the launch of Play Guitar, the Ultimate Bundle, which launches on Friday, November 15th. So there you go. And there's going to be a couple links. I'm reading my notes here, but there's a couple of links in the description or the chat that you can click on to get first in line access, or you can also register for the webinar that's happening on Friday. So again, here you go. And then you'll be able to get Play Guitar for Life on 10 DVDs in a hard case with a bunch of bonuses and things like that. So you can click on the description and learn all about that sort of thing. And again, I'm not going to waste your time with it, but I need you to understand that for me, Play Guitar for Life was a labor of love because it really is comprehensive, and it teaches you from the very beginning to how to understand your theory, understanding all of your chords and strumming and rhythm and song structure and ear training and all these different things it's soloing. Basics of soloing, blues soloing, rock soloing, creating melodies and phrases, and all these different things are included in it. So, and what I love about it is it's not just a section on theory and a section on blues and a section on whatever. It's scattered throughout. So you get a little bit of all these things that are always tying into each other and just kind of bringing you up to the next level as it goes. So, if you've never checked it out, please check it out. It might not be for you. It might not be something you need, and that's totally fine. But do me a favor and at least check it out. See if it's something that you might that might benefit you. So, anyway, so this is the last day of our live sessions. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. And if you were here yesterday or the day before, thank you again. So today what we're going to do is we're going to look at the basics of blues soloing. And you might know your pentatonic scale, you might not, and if you don't, it's okay. If you do, let's just kind of review this, and then we're going to talk about a couple things here, okay? So the pentatonic scale is a 5-note scale, penta meaning 5, okay? So if I was on the note A here at the 5th fret, okay, let's say I was playing in the key of A. Okay, the first thing I need to do is have a scale that I can work with. Now, if you don't know the pentatonic, it's okay. You could learn it either from this or from the course or whatever, but let's just take a look at this. So if you don't know it, just hold on a second because I'm going to simplify this for you. So we have 5-8, 5-7, 5-7, 5-7, 5-8, 5-8. And it might look like we're playing more than 5 notes, but we're not. I'm playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 notes, and then it just repeats in an octave. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 1, 2, and then I run out of strings. So I'm playing A, C, D, E, G, A, C, D, E, G, A, C, and then I run out of strings. So what I'm going to try and focus on today is just giving you a couple things to think about when you're trying to solo. Now, very much so, when I go to solo over any style of music, certainly if it's not metal, which oftentimes metal is looking for a different level of intensity, right? That music tends to be more intense. With blues, I'm usually looking for a dynamic kind of contrast, which is very much what we talked about with strumming in the first live session that I did. So I'm always thinking about trying to bring the energy up and then bring it back down, and I can do that through volume. And I can do that through playing more or less. Or I can do that through bringing in more colorful sounds that maybe weren't there before. There's lots of different ways that I can do this. So what I want you to think about is just in the beginning here, let's just take 4 notes out of this pentatonic. So instead of worrying about the whole scale, because oftentimes what happens is people just wind up kind of moving up and down. You know, and it doesn't really wind up having much of sort of an authentic sound. So let's just simplify this and just take 4 notes. I'm going to go to the 4th string and the 3rd string. And I'm going to focus on just those 4 notes, just 5, 7, 5, 7. Now, The 7th fret of the 4th string is my root. If I was in the key of A, this note right here is my root. So that's a nice note to try and target or emphasize. So please understand that when you start exploring these 4 notes, the first thing you do is you start thinking about dynamics. Now, dynamics for me, I use the term dynamic contrast all the time, which means you're playing a lot, play a little, or don't play at all. You played loud, played soft. You played low, play high, right? You played a lot of notes, play just a few notes. You're always thinking about contrast. So if we think about this, I don't have to just sit and go like this. What I can do is think about it like a singer, and what I want to do is just take a couple of notes or maybe I make a little rhythmic idea. Right? All kinds of different things that I can explore, not just feeling like I'm always obligated to play all 4 notes all the time, but exploring the dynamics and the dynamic contrast, doing things differently, okay? Now, at this point, none of this really defines as blues. It's just soloing. It's just soloing in general. So as I start trying to sort of target my movements toward that A, you'll notice that I start using more things like sliding, vibrato, bending, right? I always call them the big 5, which are hammer-ons, pull-offs, slides, bending, and vibrato. Like those things are the vocal elements that give our guitar voice, okay? If we're just playing down and up, again, we could think of some really amazing things. Don't get me wrong. But it sounds less like a voice. Where oftentimes when we're talking about blues soloing, it's nice to give our guitar sort of a human element. So when we start learning how to add things like bending, and vibrato and all these different kinds of things in there, it starts giving it more of that human factor, okay? So again, I talk about all of these things in the course, but just be aware of that. So the first thing that I've got is I'm simplifying my scale. Instead of worrying about playing all 6 strings, I'm just trying to focus on a couple of strings and trying to learn to create motion, okay? Whether it's just a small melodic idea or repetition. Right? And then I'm using dynamics and all this dynamic contrast element. Right, all that kind of stuff is going in there. Now, to take it to the next level, above the 5 things, hammer-on, pull-off, slides, bending, and vibrato, which again are absolutely crucial. Please don't underestimate how powerful it is, not just to know what they are and know how to do them, but to learn how to manipulate them. Learn how to master them when you play. So when you go to do something, whatever it is, right? You can control those however you like in your playing, okay? It's just, they're absolutely, they can't be overestimated, right? They're really, I don't know. You get the point. They're really important to know. So the next thing what we want to do is start giving this a bit of a blues flavor. And there's 2 notes that I decided to show you today that might be kind of fun for you, okay? So the first one we're going to look at here is this one. We're going to take these 4 notes, and right next to this last note that we're playing, right next to it is what we refer to as a blue note or the blues note. Now, it's a rather ugly sounding note over the root. Let's say we're playing an A, and I've got, right? Now, if I go to that blues note over the A, it sounds kind of ugly, and really that blues note is intended to be what we call a passing tone. We're going to go to it, but then we're going to go off of it. We're going to leave it. So one thing you can practice is going up to that and then coming back. And what I love to do is I'll do a little slide into it and then slide back like this. So again, I'm using my dynamics, my bending, all those things. Okay. Another thing I like to do, my A, I know is going to sound great over that A. If you were with me yesterday, you know that I was talking about how the blues, the note that makes the chord sound more bluesy is what we call the seventh, the dominant seventh or minor seventh sound. And that's done by going a whole step back from the root. So if I'm on A, if I go back 2 frets, I wind up on the note G. That's the note that makes the chord sound bluesy, okay? Well, I can try and target that note in my solo, and it sounds really cool too. I might slide to it or something like that. Okay, so the blues note is a really nice thing to add. And of course, we can add it in multiple octaves and we can add it all over the fretboard. But learning how to play it in just one place is a great place to start, obviously, right? So. Okay, the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add in the next note, which I think sounds really wonderful as well. If we look at this A7 chord that we're playing over, okay, that's kind of our blues template there. This chord has got a note that the minor pentatonic does not have, and that note is right there. So I'm playing the 6th fret of the 3rd string, okay? That's what I'm playing in this chord, but if we look at our pentatonic scale, we're not playing that note. It's a 6, we're playing 5 and 7. So what we can learn to do is add that 6 in. And there's a couple different ways. Now, the first way is very bluesy. What we're going to do is we're going to add the 6 in by going from the 5 that we normally play. We're going to go from that 5 to that 6. And immediately you're going to start hearing some bluesy sounds. See how I can play that 6 and then that 6th fret, I should say, right here, which is technically what we call a major third if you know anything about your theory, and if not, you'll learn it in the course. So there I'm using the major third, so I'm going from the minor third to the major third, and I've always called that the minor-major twist. Okay, it always sounds cool if you're going from the 5 to the 6. If you go from 6 to 5, it begins to sound more like this. It sounds less like blues and more exotic. But if you play it as a 5 to 6, the minor major, now you can leave it out anytime you want. But if you're going to play it, doing that hammer-on sounds really cool. Or forward motion. You might pick them or whatever, but that forward motion from 5 to 6. Now, this is kind of cool too. I can go to that 6th fret there, and then remember, to make that A chord sound bluesy, we added in the note G. We did that yesterday. Well, if I play both those notes together, we get a really bluesy sound. So maybe I'm going to play this 7, slide up to 8, come back, or maybe I'll go, and then slide down to that. Sounds kind of cool too. Kind of builds anticipation. See, there's lots of cool things that we can do, and again, I'm only focusing on 2 strings. 4 notes with these other notes kind of existing around there, and trying to think about how, with dynamics and dynamic contrast, I can add these pieces around there, okay? So sometimes the answer doesn't lie in just learning how to play 782 different guitar licks. It's learning how to manipulate the notes that you have through your ability to play and respond to the music that you're playing over. Not just playing pre-constructed elements that we've memorized. Don't get me wrong, we need to learn how to do that too. But part of it is learning how to listen and respond. And sometimes less is more. Sometimes more is more, right? Again, that for me is where dynamic contrast comes in. Is I'm not opposed to a great ripping fast guitar lick. I think they're wonderful and they can bring the energy up. The problem is if we don't ever contrast that intensity with something that brings it back down, it just winds up staying up there the whole time. Now, again, if you're in Slayer, there's nothing wrong with that because that's the style of music that it is and the intensity is meant to be there. Oftentimes with blues, we don't experience that. We're constantly combating this lightness and darkness, right, back and forth as we play. So if we try and find something there, right? So we're constantly trying to kind of figure out how to move back and forth between those. So the more I understand about the scale that I'm playing, the colorful notes that exist around that scale that can really bring out the bluesy element, or there's other styles of music that we'll talk about too in the course, but whatever those things are, being able to kind of bring those to light and use those. And then phrasing and melody and all these different things kind of all play a part in there. And certainly technique is in there as well. But trying to kind of utilize all of these little pieces. Now that might seem a lot if you're new to this. You don't have to do all of that right away. You just start with something. You know, again, 2 notes. Or 3 notes. Or 4 notes or whatever, but you start trying to learn how to, I've always thought of it as driving. Like I'm learning how to create a roadmap on my guitar. I'm learning how to move around and do different things. And I don't have to constantly be moving. Sometimes I can stay in one place. You see, and create something cool that way. Let me see if I've got... where is my... There it is. Let me see if I got a jam track available here. I don't know if I do or not, but... Okay, so here's something. See if... I haven't tested this, so we'll see how... You let me know if you can hear this okay. No, we don't want that. That's okay. Being told that it's a little loud, so I'll bring it down a little bit. Here we go. Four notes, that's all I'm going to try and do, and then the notes that surround it, we just talked about. obviously I'm itching to go other places and do other things because once the music starts getting in there, it's hard to stop. But that's just showing you. Now, I was just in G. I just moved down 2 frets and I was just playing those same 2 strings. But trying to respond to that music as it's playing. It's just a super cool thing. So learning how to play rhythm, learning how to play chords, learning how to play different songs that you love, that sort of thing. Then learning how to play some scales and learning how to improvise. Understanding more about how your fretboard works. All of these things are one big stew, if you will, of just different pieces of information that you bring together, which creates you, the guitar player. That's the most important thing. And I think that's what Play Guitar for Life really is about to me. Is trying to give you all of those elements in little pieces so they're digestible, so you can use them. But anyway, thank you so much for joining me, and check out the links around the video. I appreciate your time more than you realize. So thank you so much. If you've been here with me for the last 3 days, I thank you very much for hanging out with me, and hopefully you learned a little something and had a little fun, and you leave motivated, which is the most important thing. So if you think that this might help you, click on the link and learn more about it. And if you don't think it's going to help you, that's cool. I want you to just enjoy yourself, okay? Keep learning, stay motivated, and motivate somebody else, all right? So take care, and I will talk to you soon.